excited today that we're going to the Glenveagh Castle for the conclusion of the AE Russell, George Russell exhibition there at the Glenveagh Castle, the Caisleán Ghleann Bheatha. So it's really exciting, so here we go!
My talk's going to be a short one before I listen to the good Charlie Gallagher here. So I was thinking about the national park here and the wonderful job that the people do here. They made us really good friends of them, and we're very friendly to us. And when I come here, I feel like part of the family nearly, and the surroundings are magnificent. So I started to think about AE up here and his interaction with nature and his spiritual side of nature. So AE had two sons and a daughter, and the daughter died in infancy, and she was called Neil. And so when she died, AE and Ballard went up to a place called Kiltartan, Michael says here, Park, to sort of mourn or whatever. And he painted this painting when he was mourning. And it's the only painting that both him and Ballard signed, the two of them signed this painting. So this was when he was mourning the death of his only girl child. And so this is his comfort zone is nature and it's trees. You can see how green it is, and that's what he was trying to cheer himself up with. So that's really where that's his comfort zone is nature. So we'll move. So what I'll read here is a wee bit from Lady Gregory. We started talking about Lady Gregory here first, because she'd sort of explain the Irish Literary Revival and their beliefs. From the most ancient time, our ancestors have regarded as spiritual and given names to the trees, fields, rocks, rivers, lakes and mountains. We have written mythologies, poems, songs and legends about our natural surroundings that permeates our character, and we call this character the Irish diaspora. AE said, I was excited by the literature in which the seers seemed to have gone into a divine nature and come back dark and shining and God intoxicated. I had imaginations merging my spirit in the spirit of nature. That's what AE believed in nature. So Lady Gregory said that trees vanish very quickly, and a clump that has taken years to grow is gone in a day. And those words were written just over 127 years ago by Lady Augusta Gregory. If woods, like friendships, are not kept in constant repair, the day will come when they will be but a memory, she wrote. And she wrote this in the Irish Cooperative Movement's journal, the Irish Homestead, which of course was edited and managed by AE. We are not likely to have more lasting monuments put over us, she wrote, and we cannot have more gracious ones than the living rustling trees that we had planted and that we had loved. She wrote that Ireland, more than any other country, ought to be a country of trees, since the letters in the modern Irish alphabet are derived from the Ogham letters named after the trees. AE Russell recommended the spirituality that could be gained by living close to the land. He painted scenes of woodlands, agricultural fields, and midland bogs, most of them with human figures in the landscape. Joyce represents him as saying that the movements which work revolutions in the world are born out of the dreams and visions in a peasant's heart on the hillside. For them, the earth is not an exploitable ground, but the living mother. So this one here really, Michael did touch on it. AE's grandmother died in Black 47 in during the famine. And this would have a big influence on, well, a lot of his economics, because he wanted to break the cycle. Ireland just didn't have one famine, by the way, it had one every generation almost. And he wanted to break that cycle of famine and create a new economy through the cooperative movement that would sort of stop the famines, really. The Irish Literary Revival was a reaction. It was a cultural preservation to the Great Famine, during which AE's mother, grandmother died. And it was similar to, we had the annals, the great monks from Donegal here that wrote the annals, and they were doing the same. They were preserving all the culture of Ireland and its history and its character, really. And that was because of the plantation. So this cultural revolution or preservation, the Irish Literary Revival, they weren't just involved in literature, they were involved in all aspects of the Irish culture, and they were trying to preserve it all. So, really, where did it all begin? This is Glenveagh Park. It's second only in size in Phoenix Park. Beautiful place if you ever want to visit. And sort of, I can't if I had a pointer anyway. I thought, the red circle over here is where AE was born. This red circle here, and of course this is Lough Neagh, which would have been a big influence on him. There's a lot of mythologies about Lough Neagh, a lot of gods in Lough Neagh, and it was the very first people to settle in Ireland actually settled around the shore. That was the Mesolithic people. They brought their gods with them. So the god of Lough Neagh is hockey. It's actually being polluted at the minute. You've probably seen all the things being destroyed. So this is the birthplace of our nation, and we're allowing it to be polluted, but we'll not dwell on that too much. So later on in life, he would come down to this one. This is where he would live, in the park, the Brownlow's big estate. And it was a magical place. This is still magical. So he wrote, it was an exciting of spirit for one born in a little country town, so that life seemed to dilate into a paradise of beautiful memories, and to reach the past ages and to mix with the eternal consciousness of earth. And when we come on what is new, we pause to contemplate it, and do not hurry to the end of our journey. That was in the Canon Vision. This reverence came to me as a boy. I was supposed to be better. That's the lake again, and you can see a lot of them houses wouldn't have existed, but the lake is still there. It was still beautiful, and that's what it's like at night time. That's the castle, Bunaitheoir Castle in the background there. See how magical it is. So this was a painting he did, thinking back in his memory, and you can see the poem there, effervescent. It flickered mid the daffodils and danced their gentle dance, then rose up slenderly in air. It was as still as a trance. It entered in the magic thing, into your being flowed, through lips and eyes and flooded hair, its precious substance glowed. So he was seeing these figures as a child man in the Glenveagh Park and the daffodils and things like that there. And he come from an evangelical background. They were Church of Ireland, but he went to the primitive Methodist Sunday school, which was very evangelical. And so he, coming from this evangelical background, he couldn't understand. The evangelical background didn't explain what these things, these visions he had, didn't explain that. He spent all his life trying to figure this thing out. And this is where a lot of spiritualism came from. And even if you see some of his poems, you can see a lot of evangelical Christianity in some of his poems, believe it or not, even though he's theosophic. This reverence, did I read it a bit? This reverence came to me as a boy listening to the voice of birds. One coloured evening in summer, when suddenly birds and trees and grass, tinted air, myself seemed but one mood or companionship, and I felt certitude that the same spirit was all. So, there's another painting similar to this one, and you can see, most people miss a lot. And you can see an excellent spirit in the background there as well. If you look closely at it, there's no spirit in there. And so a lot of his paintings have this hidden metaphor in them as well. If you look carefully at it, it fits in them. You can't see. Remember we showed you another painting upstairs? So another wee thing he wrote was, a friend I greet in each flower and tree and wind. Oh, but life is sweet, is sweet. I hope to enable us to understand the language which the gods speak to us through flowers and trees and natural forms. So AE may be one of the forerunners of a new culture in which mankind would find its spiritual rebirth. So we can learn a lot from what AE was telling us, and the respect we should have for the earth, and treat it as, should be treated as a spiritual thing. So, you know, we have people here who are experts on Ellie Young, and she really did that in America. Ellie Young actually really inspired the growth of the hippie movement. You know, so she saved the redwood forests in America. She saved them from the destruction. So that was one of AE's projects. Ernest Boyd visited AE up here in Port Blah in 1812, and he said he painted, composed, meditated, communing with that nature which was vital and alive in all its aspects, as man is alive and vital in all his members. Russell's visionary experience reminded us that the very earth is holy, and permeated as it is by the life of spirit. AE believed he was on friendly terms with the winds, the mountains, and would be granted an insight into the destiny which the great powers are shaping for the Irish in this side, the mingling of God and nature and man in one being, one yet infinite in number. Padraig Colum has described in a few words the true strength and appeal that we feel in AE's prose and poetry. He said, "One has the sense of hearing a deep sound in nature, a sound that becomes more significant as one listens to it. How is it that these short poems, very many of them only 3 stanzas, give one the sense of fullness and profundity? It is because they are all glimpses of the same river of vision. To this day, specific isolated trees and bushes across the Irish landscape are left alone in reverence and cautions for their presence." So AE had an experience, probably in Glenveagh Park, when he was walking past these poplar trees. He got to one of the poplar trees and he went into one of these visions, or he believed he was transmuted to India. And he started to live a life as a child in India. And he ends up getting killed. When he gets killed, he then reappears out of the next tree. So he really believed this to happen. So he's transmuted in these, he's having these things happen to him, like, and they said the evangelical background didn't explain it. They make a touched on the Starry Cloud flag. This is actually the original Starry Cloud flag. The one that Mecca put up was one that was redesigned by McKernan for the 1916 Rising. And that was a politicised one. This flag originally was not a political flag. It was for the workers of the 1913 Labour. So it wasn't, well, I suppose you could call it a wee bit political, but it wasn't the emblem that it has now been used as. You know, almost every political organisation in Ireland uses the flag for the whole thing. But it was for the workers that he designed this. And as Michael said, it was amazing. If you think of the concept of it, it was for an urban people. He brings an agricultural implement. So why? Well, the Starry flag cloud was unveiled and designed by AE Russell for the Irish Citizen Army in the 1913 lockdown. The co-founder of the Irish Citizen Army, James Conway, said that a free Ireland would control its own destiny from the plough to the stars. So, what do we know about the Starry Plough constellation? Well, it's called Ursa Major, or the Big Dipper. And it's visible all year round. And I think that's the clue to, this is the controversy now. This is the bit that's told Michael, I didn't want to tell Michael about. So what is this? What does this remind you of? So this is obviously in America, but with North America, you know, it's the same thing happens to us, only we don't use the word fall. We call it the autumn. So it's circling around all the time. And AE was known, believe it or not, as the North Star. And he didn't call himself that. Other people called it the North Star because of the cadence and its direction and things like that there. You know. So, due to the Earth's rotation, the plough appears to circle around the North Star, maintaining its presence in the night sky across all seasons. However, its orientation changes throughout the year, making it useful as a celestial marker for navigation and star gazing. In India, it's referred to as the Saptasarshi, which means the 7 rishis. The Sanskrit term rishi meaning a sage or a saint. 7 bright stars, mysterious constellation of the 7 rishis in the Great Bipáirc. Egypt held them sacred. India has connected all these symbols to the ages ago with time, or the Yuga revolutions. And the Saptasaris are intimately connected with our present age, the Dark Kali Yuga, which they call the Iron Age. They refer to what's happening in the world. So look, even more now, the Iron Age is heartless thing. It's not soft anymore. It comes the Iron Age. He called it the Iron Age. People don't care anymore. They've all got hard and iron instead of caring. She goes on to say that the Bhagavad Gita Purana scripture, which AE was an expert in, called the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Great Circle of Time. 7 rishis mark the time, the duration of the events in the Saptansari and the life cycle. These are the mysterious, as they are supposed to be the wives of ladies and reveal mysteries of the occult nature. Today's big hero was Madame Blavatsky, of course. You probably recognise. You might recognise that cross yourself. You've done a lot of work with that, and you can see what's on the top of it there. So this symbol, it wasn't the Nazis, of course, they politicised it and used it for their own ends, but it was a very ancient symbol. And all over the world, people used it. And it's a symbol of goodness. It wasn't an evil symbol. It has certainly become one now. And that's it on St. Bridget's, on the cross at St. Bridget's Well, which is, that's down in Sligo, isn't it? Down in Sligo, actually, yeah. So you can see it there, but there's lots of them all around now. They see swastikas on different things. Madame Blavatsky, who was his good friend, says that the so-called Saptarshis is mysterious. The flowers associated with the cycles of time, especially connected with the Kali Yuga, the Dark Age, presently underway on the earth, they are symbolized as lying across the lines of the circle of time. The swastika is a word of Sanskrit meaning the origin of being or man. The swastika is an architectural symbol whose wide dispersal around the globe. The Theosophists lands confer the swastika as a symbol of primeval gnosis found in the prehistoric paintings and carvings, literally all over the world, Europe, India, the Americas, of course in Ireland. An ancient symbol of life and success in India from at least 2000 BC, or 200 BC, sorry. A religious symbol of the Hindu culture, it also appears in the Jain and the Buddhist religious art. So, if we're glad to know that we're finished with the swastika there. So, as you can see, there's the Pleiades, just showed that there. And the Pleiades, of course, is a big thing in Mary Poppins, where there's a big party one time, and all the stars come to visit, and Pleiades is all there. So, in Mary Poppins, there's a lot of metaphors. It's not a children's book, it never was meant to be for children, but children love it. And it's really not that theosophy and mysticism that they run down and flowers all through it, if you know where to look for it. Like, but Pleiades is a big part in Mary Poppins and some of the sequences in it. And this is Pamela Travers with AE, and as Michael said, she came up to say with them here regularly, and there's one story. In fact, I'm not sure if she has, there was one, it's not even the sketches together, but she has a big pair of boots on her on the feet. It's because they're going over Reggie Head, and he puts these big boots on, they're massive, so he fills it full of newspapers. And so lots of their boots from Reggie Head. So I had the people around there. Mary Poppins' boots are stuck up Reggie Head. But she spent a long time here. I think when Michael, I'm not sure you mentioned it there, but when he died, she came up around this area and stayed in places that he would say. All the service she was here in Gleann Bheatha, just definitely was in Marble Hill, and he stayed in the college of Marble Hill, just to get the accent out of it, So, so, if you watch the Mary Poppins film, you'll see the bit where he's chalking this. Bert is based on AE, by the way. Bert, Chummy Street. And that's why he has all the different instruments, all the different. He's a Marian minded man. Marian, he can do everything, like AE's involved in all different things. So that's why he has him playing all these different. Sorry, who did you say was based on? Bert, Chummy Street in Mary Poppins. AE Russell. Because he was an economist, an agriculturist, a mystic, a poet, you know. So that's why he's playing on different instruments. But early on, the film, he's sketching this game, or on the ground, going right, and he tells them that the magic is behind the trees. And they jump into this magical word, behind the trees. Right? So both George Russell and WB were born into a rich tapestry of folklore, heritage, and they synthesise these traditions with modern mysticism. It's steeped in metaphor and mystical exploration. The writing and paintings are emerging philosophies of this time and explored in extending the tensions between the spirit world and ours. The cultural roots were deeply entwined with the mysteries of nature. AE had a profound influence on Palma Travers, and I told you about that bit about the chalk and the paintings. So Iron sold in 19, it broke the wrath of the Iron Age and the weight of the Iron Power. This was AE talking in 1918. And the last slide, hopefully, is AE looking at the future. Is this the future we're going to leave ourselves? Are we going to destroy treeless land? A thousand years hence, this is AE's painting of 1,000 years hence. And if we don't do something, this is why this place is so important here. They're preserving that nature. And if we don't do, we'll end up at something like that in the future. I think there was one more. You ever get to Ely Place? Beautiful murals. He did these beautiful murals in Ely Place. And if you ever get to Ely Place, you can go in, well, if you're flight and all, we'll let you in to see them. And you can see this beautiful mystical world and the plants all around it. So I said that wouldn't go take you long, and I finish on that. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Charlie Gallagher, and I'm from down near Marble Hill, a townland called Fáiltiú. And my brief talk will be giving you an insight into AE Russell's interaction with the local community there. I have an age, a generation that knew people that worked and interacted, or that knew, in other words, knew AE Russell personally. And one of my, I can say, some of these people, my oldest informant was a lady, she was born in 1883, and they would have worked in Marble Hill House. They would have worked in ours, which was the seat of the Stewart bands in their time, and they had very wide range of stories that they passed on to me. So to start with, the AE, you'll say, how did he come to be in Donegal? Well, my theory is that Hugh A. Law was an MP, a nationalist, an Irish National Party MP from 1902 to 1918, and he also served later on in the 1920s in the nGall. But Hugh Law was belonged to a wealthy County Meath family that his father was very high up in the British administration in Dublin. In fact, he was the Lord Chancellor of Ireland in the last years of the 19th century. But what happened then was that Hugh A. Law, his son, married Charlotte Stewart. In other words, she was known as Lotta, and they, with their wealth, they bought the rectory at Marble Hill, which is Marble Hill House, at a small estate with it. But Hugh A. Law was one of these wonderful people that, in a true sense, was caring for the community. And he tried to attract all the different people that would be of benefit to it. And of course, it was, as it was mentioned by earlier speakers, where the Irish Renaissance or revival, Celtic revival was taking place. And Marble Hill House became a mecca or a hub for all these people. And of course, among them was Hugh AE Russell, Horace Plunkett, Paddy the Cope. These were all mentioned earlier. And Jack B. Yeats was also a visitor. Now, there was no tourist infrastructure here much of the time except a few boarding houses. And one of those boarding houses is still there, but it's not used now as a private house, Mullins of Brehey, overlooking Port na Bláth. And Mullins of Brehey have a visitors book where all the different people that was mainly, of course, gentry as they called it at the time, that would have come to that. Some of the names would be, of course, Jack B. Yeats was one of those who stayed there, and also Scott of the Antarctic. I collaborated with Father David at Ards Friary when he was compiling the book on the history of Ards, and he actually wrote to Scott, Peter Scott, the naturalist. And Peter Scott was alive at the time, and he sent a lovely letter back, and he told about the pleasant memories he had of being in this area. And as a child, he cycled down a slope and in the front door of this particular house. So you can see immediately the attraction to this area. Now, AE Russell, of course, was very friendly with the laws, and himself and Lotta Law collaborated together in this quest for more information about the spiritual dimension to life. And of course, their main quest was the fairies. And there's some very amusing stories, and of course locals found it very amusing as all the exploits that they were up to. One of them was, and if you know the Seacraven Bay, there's quite a large island to the east of Marble Hill Beach. We would call it Patterson's Island, but in the map it's marked as Clonmass Island. And they used to go out there, spend the night there, looking and listening to see if they could hear the fairies or see them performing. I don't know whether they did it. But also, his paintings as well, he used the young, the Law family children as subjects in his paintings. They're painted as sort of fairy characters, if you see any of his paintings in Marble Hill, with the grey trunks of the beech trees and that. So he did quite a lot of painting. In fact, my father, as quite a young man, he would have been a sort of a teenager at the time, with a much older friend from Derry, were walking along on that particularly beautiful part where you leave the Marble Hill Big Beach going towards the smaller beach. It's an elevated road where you're looking out through framed pictures through the beech trees, and they seen this man sitting with a beard painting. And when they went past, this older man says, "Do you know who that is?" That's AE Russell. Of course, he never heard of him. This was part of his, he was actually doing one of his paintings. Now, as well as that, he rented a house there at a place called Parkmore and stayed there. And while he was there, when he was leaving in the autumn, he employed a local woman with a big family to do his washing for him. And he gave her 2 of his paintings. And one of them is particularly, you can identify it immediately as a Russell, and that it has like the trees, the children, and the other one, of course, was based down in Galway. It's a more lighter colour. Also, he stayed at another house as a boarder up at the Brehey. It's a very exposed house, but there are great views around from it. And the family there, the Stewart family, in fact, by a coincidence, the man that lived there was a retired RIC man from Lurgan. So he stayed there. Now, I know that the group that were here in the autumn 2 years ago visited and seen these photographs. I haven't seen them. I did see the ones from Parkmore. So that gives you an idea of his depth of contact with the local people. Now, there's when we're talking about the house on Brehey, I always point out to them the painting here in Glenveagh Castle is titled Muckish. That was literally painted outside their front door where he set up his easel, and he had a view of Muckish with various hills in the foreground. So that can be identified exactly where it was painted from. He also, of course, mentioned there his association with Arthur Kingsley Porter. And Porter, of course, of Ireland, and of course it was well illustrated in the earlier talks about him being down on Maharoti Pier waiting on them on that fateful day in August 1933 when Kingsley Porter didn't come back. But these are just a few points that I just wanted to mention about Russell. Now, the question is then about the other families that were involved. I mentioned earlier about Hugh A. Law. He invited these various different people to come to stay, and of course they in turn then spread the word around. And at that time there was great optimism. You had over in the opposite side, you had the 5th Earl of Leitrim developed the Russell Hotel, and a lot in those days, of course, it wasn't mass tourism. It was people, usually wealthy people, that came, and as a result of that, they came to the area. So these are just a few points that related. Last week, I gave a talk on the Stewards of Ards and William Murray in Manor Cunningham, and people. So there were two people there from the opposite side, and they were looking across at Marble Hill, and they could see that Marble Hill House had changed. Now, I should point out to you, my last encounter with this wonderful group was at Marble Hill House in August 2023, and we discussed, and it was wonderful to meet there because you could sense the atmosphere where A.E. Russell spent, I'm sure, many happy days. And there's a very well-researched book on Arthur Kingsley Porter, which also points out that A.E. Russell, the law, Hugh A. Law, and the various, probably the lawyers and that, it was in the sitting room of Marble Hill House that the deal was clinched where Kingsley Porter bought the estate here in Ghleann Bheatha. So that just gives you an idea of the close association they had with this area. And I say, now, A.E. said that he was really in love with this particular part of the world, and he said everywhere where he set up his easel, he had a scene to paint, so that just gives you an idea. So these are just a few points that I felt. Now, I should point out as well, for your own perusal and research, there's an archive, a government-sponsored archive called the Law Photographic Archive, which has a number of photographs. One, I think, is a grainy photograph of A.E. Russell sitting on the rock down on the beach at Marble Hill, and I can point out the exact rock that he was sitting on. But as well as that, Lotta Law had a passion for building houses, and she built the two houses, Umracham and Umrachfree, that you can still see there today. And she also built a little house up in the woods, and they called it the Fairy House. It was actually a playhouse for children. But there's actually a photograph of, I think it's probably in the Law's private collection, that shows A.E. Russell sitting in this house. But in that particular house, he painted on the wall a beautiful mural. It was actually a maritime scene where you see fish and green water, so to speak. But sadly, that little house was very badly vandalised away back about 20 or 30 years ago, and it's a ruin at this point in time. So as I say, also he, Lotta Law, his daughter, who lived in Umracham, Umracham, that she lived in, she said that all these different people that came there, the Laws were very hospitable to them. And Patrick Pierce was there at a Caisleán Inn. They actually had a dance hall there at Marble Hill House, and they held Caisleáns, and it again was part of this Celtic revival. So these are just a few points. But what I would point out as well now, I'm happy to say that Marble Hill House has been restored by Natalie. She was here, she had to leave. She has changed hands a number of times. It was first bought by a gentleman called Davin, and then Mr. Harrison, and of course Natalie's mother, Dorothy Joblin Purser, in the early 70s, totally restored it. It then was neglected, but her grandniece now has greatly restored it. So if you're ever down at Marble Hill, you will see it set in beautiful grounds there overlooking Seoladh Bay. So these are just a few points that ties in the great AE Russell to the local area. So I think, thank you very much.
It's always a place to hear a beautiful part of the world, and it's also somewhere very close to the heart of AE Russell, very strong associations. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to speak generally about AE Russell for those who don't know that much about him, just to put him on your map. And then Jim's going to talk about some aspects of Russell, particularly his love of nature and the mystical elements of that. And then Charlie will talk about AE's close associations with Marble Hill and all the places he used to be around in Donegal. So there's our man. Who was it? Born in early 1867, spent childhood there, and then the family moved to Dublin. And he spent most of his public life in Dublin, although he visited America and other places. He was, from a very young age, he got these mystical visions. We think it started when he was running around the Brown domain in Lurgan, and he carried them through. He got puzzled as to why he was receiving these visions and what they meant. And as a relatively young man, he rejected the whole idea of institutional Christianity, but he was still drawn to find some explanation, spiritual explanation for his visions. And that's just the place in Lurgan where he was born. You see the blue plaque above the door, and there in the window that's Lurgan today is one of his paintings, and that was used on the cover of A Woman's Heart 2. So we still remember in Lurgan, even though your average citizen probably doesn't know that much about it. We call this talk AE Russell Ireland's Forgotten Superstar, simply because we lifted that heading from McKernan of RTE, who did a piece on Russell, and that's what he called it. And the reason, of course, is that from about 1895 to 1930, the most interesting years probably in Irish history, Russell was at the centre of everything. He was at the centre of the literary revival, art, painting, politics, economics, rural reform, cooperative movement, anything that needs designed or promoted. And at the same time, he edited a couple of most influential journals, Irish Homestead and Irish Statesman. He was probably the top journalist and commentator over that time. As a young guy in Dublin, he met the poet W.B. Yeats at art school, and they started writing poetry together. And we're convinced that AE Russell is the reason that W.B. Yeats became a good poet, because he wanted to be a painter. And his father was a painter, John Yeats, brilliant portrait painter, and his younger brother, Jack Yeats, is probably Ireland's leading visual artist ever. And I think when W.B. realised his father was better, his kid brother was better, now his new best friend was better, trying to turn his talents to something else, and he went to the poetry because he wanted to be the top of some artistic pursuit. But he learned a valuable lesson from his father, which was he also wanted to earn a living, because his father was constantly broke, despite his obvious talent. They became lifelong friends, and AE, again searching for this, making sense of these visions and this spiritual identity. He joined the Theosophy House in Dublin, and I suppose today that would be like almost sort of the hippie commune of its time, where all these earnest young people, educated people, looking for enlightenment and truth and beauty and so on. But he spent 7 years there, and by the time he came out, he really didn't know what he was about. He had become a theosophist. And essentially, what that meant was he took on board the central beliefs of theosophism, which were that you had a duty to your fellow man, you had a duty to yourself, self-improvement, and to work for others. He, given his spiritual nature, could easily have found a life, a happy life, as a meditative monk or something. But he believed through his theosophy he had to serve others as well. And he believed in a universal brotherhood, which meant that everyone was equal, irrespective of race, religion, gender, any of those things. So it was quite ahead of its time. He then got a job in the cooperative movement under Horace Plunkett, and he went down that road, and Yeats went off to London to seek fame and fortune, and they sort of drifted apart. AE went around the country setting up cooperative acts all over the place. Notably here in Donegal, Temple Crowe, which is still very much on the go in Donegal, where he persuaded the first Cope to go with that. But overall, across his lifetime, he became this central figure to all that was happening in Ireland, and there was conflict, there was turbulence, and throughout all that, he was a voice of reason and moderation. There's him and Yates. Already Yates, to pay disapproval, has got the cravats and velvet coat and the monocle and cutting it ash to literary figure playing in time where it's all about truth and beauty, not about career. I'll just go to his poetry. Probably most famous for his poetry is journalism and his paintings. And the paintings and the poems were quite similar. They were either mystical in character, or they were just about the beauty of nature. And you can see what people said about him. That's W.B. Yeats, famous for his nobody. But the one poem, Modern Ireland, is molded spiritual ecstasy in the verse, most delicate and subtle poetry that any Irishman or time has written. And Lord has distributed it. So, but he could also write hard-hitting political poetry if he chose to. There's just a line out of the poem he wrote. Through his work in the cooperative movement, through his theosophical beliefs, through his love of nature, he thought the rural worker, male and female, the most important people in the custodians of Mother Earth. And so rather than look down on it, this is probably how he wrote so well in the cooperative movement, he didn't look down on some uneducated peasantry. He saw them as descendants of an noble race. And just that, everyone. The rest of the ploughman pauses, turns, and wandering deep beneath his rustic habit, finds himself king. And there's the God protecting the rural worker. And that carried on into his. This is just a little verse out of the poem, Carol Moore, but a date actually in Mayo. Why not put a picture of Eric there anyway? But, and it's just the last verse of the poem, where the fairies come out, there's a dark, brooding mountain, it's all dark and gloomy, and suddenly the mood changes. And you can see the lyrical beauty of his poetry. The great gates of the mountain open once again, and the sound of songs and laughter fill the hearts of men. And the land of youth lies gleaming, flushed with rainbow joy and mirth, and the old and champion lingers in the honey heart of earth. And of course, we our local group produced a little bit of his poetry, and we used that last phrase there, the old and champion lingers, because we found that it actually does. If you go to this where AE Russell was, to this day, they have a beauty and charm, the old and champion lingers. And I'll finish with this little poem, which again just shows how he connected sort of mysticism, spirituality, and nature. Its edges foamed with amethyst and rose, withers once more the old blue flower of day, there where the ether like a diamond glows, its petals fade away. And my favourite verse, a shadowy tumult stirs the dusky air, sparkle the delicate dews, the distant snows, the great deep thrills, for through it everywhere the breath of beauty blows. I saw how all the trembling ages passed, molded to her by deep and deeper breath, near to the hour when beauty breathes her last and knows herself in death. So that's a taster of his poetry. I encourage you to explore further for yourselves. Quickly to his paintings. It wasn't seriously activity. He worked at the poetry, he worked tirelessly in the cooperative movement and in editorial and journalistic roles, but he loves to come to Donegal. It's a creature of habit, and he would come every summer for like 30 years, and he'd come to this area and he would paint away like a demon. And he produced what he saw in his visions. He also produced some beautiful landscapes, beach scenes, and mountain scenes. And but he got a bit of politics into his paintings as well. As a champion of the cooperative movement, as a champion of rural workers, as a champion of women's rights, when no other men were at that time, he carried that into his paintings too. So there's one of his goddesses that he's seen in his dreams, but she's protecting the little rural homestead. That's how he saw it. And here's a couple of men working, and they're not really getting on all that well carrying that log. And contrastingly, the women seem to have a trust. Similarly, another one, and you think of the women, you know, he didn't think of the wee Charlie Gallagher creatures, he was tall and strong, was his view. And of course, carrying the basket together, they were cooperating, that theme as well. And then this painting was the design on the cover sleeve of the Women's Heart 1, you know, Mary Back, which remains to this day the best-selling CD by Irish artist purchasing of farm seeds and so on. It could do more in the community and make rural life every bit as interesting as urban life. And so he went around the country. He would put the bike on the train and he'd go away on all over the place, and he would set up a cooperative. He'd often stay with a local parish priest who would have been interested in evening talking to him. That's what he did. He set up hundreds of those cooperatives, and of course, that's in this area. And as he moved from the hands-on setting up cooperatives to running the newspaper of the cooperative movement, the Irish Homestead, and then later the Irish Statesman. And he wrote really knowledgeably and set out blueprints for the future. That's how this new state of Ireland was coming along. It's coming along either peacefully or violently. He preferred peacefully, but it's coming along, and he wanted to give people blueprints for what it should comprise. So, the building of a rural civilization. He wrote about it. It was the national being, saying what it would be if you actually had an independent Ireland, what would it be like? And of course, the old division between urban and rural, he thought in a cooperative Commonwealth arrangement you could unite the two. So he did take an active part in the big issues of the time of that era. Back to workers in 1913, famous Dublin lockout, spoke on the floor of the stage of the Albert Hall about it. His letter to the masters of Dublin, the employers, still much talked about. There's a big frame picture of it on the wall in the town hall in Lurgan. But he foresaw, after 1913, he could see 1916 coming, he could see 1920 coming. And he, of course, tried to, he was a very active mover in the 1917 convention, constitutional convention, heading off the trouble, didn't succeed. He also used his creative talents in many other ways. Jim Martin wanted a logo or a design or an emblem for the labour movement, and they came up with the Scoláire flag. The Scoláire flag is also things to different people today, but when you think about it, urban workers wanted the symbol. Who else would give them a flag? But AE Russell, and then the stars, of course, would be the application of the stars in any event. And so we went right through that whole period, the rising. He published the National Being. He tried to bring peace through the convention, the general election, war of independence. Even after that, the treaty deal done after the war of independence, he backed the government, he backed the pro-treaty side, he wanted stability. And you can see he took on the British authorities over their attacks on creameries and the rest of it. And as a new free state was set up, he remained a strong nationalist. He wanted Irish independence, but he wanted mostly to get some stability and some peace. He even had set up the Society of the United Irishmen. He ran a steady debate in his own newspaper, the two sides debating with each other, could the women actually form their own national movement? And one guy argued, they'll never get their act together. This one, no, we could do better than that. He was writing those guys just to get it moving. So, as I say, he was involved in everything in that period. But here's some of the people that were influenced by him. There's James Joyce, bottom left. A 19-year-old James Joyce was sitting on the steps of AE's house when AE came home from work very late one night. He said to him, "Is it too late to talk? Joyce can wait for hours." Russell said, "Of course, never too late to talk." And he took him in, and Joyce showed him some of his poetry and some of his prose. And Russell more or less said to him, I'm using my own words here, but he more or less said, "But your poetry's all right, but it's not brilliant. After all, you should be it. But your prose is brilliant. And you clean it up, and then I publish it for you." So he was first to publish Joyce in the National Statesman. JFK, I'm just taking these random. JFK addressed the Irish Parliament, the joint houses of the Iraq. He finished his speech quoting George Russell. Van Morrison, into the mystic. Van Morrison has acknowledged his influence by George Russell. He was asked specifically, were you influenced in your songwriting by hits? He said, no, not yet, George Russell. Patrick Kavanagh adored Russell. He walked from Monaghan to Dublin to see Russell. It took him 3 days. He was sleeping haysheds without having a penny. When he arrived, Russell rather than these. And I think, again, Russell was first to publish him. He later won the AE Russell Literary Prize. The lady below, Pamela Travers, P.L. Travers, she wrote Mary Poppins. As a young writer, she contacted Russell and wanted to get in the literary scene in Ireland. She was Australian with Irish connections. And he took her on board. And he brought her up here. He was up here with her in this part of the world, walking around the woods and everything. The relationship was gave her ideas for Mary Poppins, the mystical sense of it, and of course, there's a lovely bit of connection even today, because Thomas Roberts was with Russell when he died, a really close friend, and afterwards, Russell's son Dermot became her literary agent and helped her sell the rights of Mary Poppins to Disney, which made her very wealthy. And Dermot Russell had a daughter, they called her Thomas, after Thomas Roberts, and she had a brother William as well. And we've been in touch with them, and we have direct connection to the family in America, so, which is very satisfying. James Conway was a fan of Russell's. Nobody wrote about workers, about labour, about cooperation, and particularly this idea that you don't divide the urban and the rural worker against each other. They're much stronger than they unite. Russell was an advisor to the Department of Agriculture in Roosevelt's administration, huge friend of Roosevelt's Vice President, Henry Wallace, and he met Roosevelt face to face. And some of the ideas of Russell's cooperative, sustainable rural communities really fitted with the American challenges at the time. People were dashing into the cities and overflowing American cities with the Great Depression. And also was showing how you could, if you invest in rural communities, you keep people happy rurally in their own sustainable communities. Yates, I've already mentioned. Mahatma Gandhi was a fan of Russell's on two counts. He read his spiritual stuff, which a lot of which would have been derived from Russell's interest in the ancient Indian philosophies, but he also liked the practical stuff about cooperation and about sustainable communities and about peaceful change. It's not essential to have violence to achieve change. And the other thing makes Russell unique, just his personality. People talked about the piercing eyes, you seem to know what they were thinking. He was unbelievably generous and kind to his time. The source of tension between him and Yates once said, George, only deal with dirty clothes or your letters. You don't waste time on anyone else. He had no interest in money, and he spent his entire life. And what makes him different from all the big figures of that era, you think about it, most of them had an agenda where they wanted to win out, or they wanted to be the best, or to succeed, or beat the other guy. He wasn't interested in anything, just service and move on. And that again came from the theosophy. And just to show what people thought, that's Henry Wallace, Roosevelt's Vice President. He was one of the finest, most gifted, most colourful people I ever knew. When he spoke, it was like hearing a symphony you could not repeat. You want to hear it again, and you were the back for it. He could grip your closest attention as you listened steadily. Never anything but the utmost humility, simplicity, sweetness, and light. May God grant that the Irish may be able to produce road use such man again. So that's pretty high praise from a pretty important figure. In 1905, on the 50th anniversary of Russell's passing, the government here commissioned the bus, and the IAOS, Congress Cooperative Movement, commissioned the bus, which stands today in Marion Square. And there was a whole ceremony led with the Taoiseach, and they brought the family over from America, and so on. And they made two of them. They sent the second one to Lurgan, where our council parked on the back staircase for the whole town hall. So we get it out in the open yet. So that's George Russell. Poet, painter, mystic, publisher, editor, designer, economist, rural reformer, philosopher, commentator, visionary, thinker. I didn't even mention Yates chaired the Committee on Irish Coins in New Ireland, and Yates probably would have put some kind of zine symbols on it, but he went to Russell, took it Russell, and that's why the early Irish coins have like a cow, a pig, a hen, a salmon, and it's Russell again. He does it again. The symbols of rural Ireland. And I'm going to talk just for a second about this place, Glenveagh Kingsley Porter. Kingsley Porter was an American academic. He was a brilliant archaeologist, brilliant at writing up the antiquities of anywhere he went, and he was based at Harvard. He persuaded him to have a look at Ireland. He went around and worked on Ireland's high crosses, innovative work. His wife Lucy was a brilliant photographer, and so anyway, they came over, they fell in love with the place, they had lots of money, they were wealthy Americans, and they bought Glenveagh Castle. And Russell used to stay there in the late, sort of around 1930, and for 2 or 3 years. And they were great friends. And if you go to the castle, there's a room, there's some of Russell's paintings, and there's a room there kept exactly as it was when Russell stayed there. But what makes things even more interesting is that despite the luxury of the castle, he had a little cottage on the island in Scotland, Donegal, just off Curtha. Just quite near where that little beach in the middle is where it was. And I think it's like a rock with it. So on one fateful night in 1933, Russell arrived, in the Dublin period, Russell arrived in Dungannon. He was due to meet Kingsley and Lucy at McKernan here as they come off the island, and then they go back to the castle. he had just vanished. Now, Russell had to do a lot of tidying up. The guards weren't great at writing up the report. Russell had to do that. He took Lucy back to Glenveagh, spent a few days there with her. She was convinced she'd never see him again. But the mystery is that Kingsley, of course, had another life. Kingsley was a gay man, but he didn't really want to reveal that publicly. It wouldn't have gone well for him in Harvard. But Lucy was knew all about that, and Kingsley had numerous male partners. Some at the castle. I think there's a corridor in the castle. Correct me wrong. It's called the bachelor's corridor. For some of Kingsley's guests would be installed. So the theory was that Betty Kingsley decided to disappear and just start a new life somewhere else. The locals on the island do not believe that he drowned. There are stories that there was a boat anchored off the island the day he disappeared. Kingsley was a strong swimmer, and at certain tides here, the distance to Aibreán and mainland is very, very short indeed. So there's a theory that Jimmy might expand on, but he could have ended up in India. Lucy, or continued to write or publish Kingsley's work long after he had lived, long after he disappeared. So there's a thought that he just lived another life. And of course, it was a pupil of his in 1937. Lucy went back to America. It was a pupil of his who then bought the castle. It was a fantastic collection of all the versions, and pretty much Michael Henry's castle you see today. I'll finish one final slide on AE, and what makes him kind of uniquely interesting is that I said that when that he was a confused young man, wondering about these visions, looking for answers. When he went into the Theosophy House, he got those answers, he got them in the ancient Indian philosophies, he got them in the back of the Gita, the Upanishads, etc., etc. And he went forth then from that time, from the left of the Theosophy House, to just do all this stuff right across the whole spectrum of Irish life for a 30-year period. And when he died in Bournemouth, in a nursing home in 1935, he came home to Dunleary. There was an aerial fly past, whatever curtha or there for an arm to fly past Dunleary to come in. And the Irish Times records that the funeral procession out to Harris Cross was a mile long. That's amazing that there's something most people never heard of, but so popular at the time, the household name. But when he was buried in Mount Road ceremony or centre, the French put up a headstone, and even there, more innovative design, first man logo. But I moved among them